We're going to start with something completely insane, completely preposterous. As you could see, the title of this article is Report Urban Meyer Didn't Know Aaron Donald, Other Star Opposing Players. Urban Meyer was even less prepared for the NFL than his brief time in charge of the Jacksonville Jaguars suggested. The former Jaguars head coach was unfamiliar with star players around the league, including Los Angeles Rams defensive tackle Aaron Donald, San Francisco 49ers receiver Deebo Samuel, and Seattle Seahawks safety Jamal Adams, reports Jason Jenks and Mike Sando of The Athletic. Who's this number 99 guy on the Rams? Meyer asked one staffer during the season. Quote, I'm hearing he might be a problem for us. An absolutely astute observation by Urban Meyer to think that the best defensive football player of his generation would be a little bit of a problem for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Meyer said he had conducted a 6-month deep dive on the NFL prior to taking the job. The Athletic story also highlighted other reported allegations of mistreatment and unprofessionalism against Meyer, who apparently kicked kicker Josh Lambo during warm-ups and publicly called out receiver Marvin Jones, which led to a practice confrontation. Quote, the most toxic environment I've ever been a part of, said a veterans member of the Jaguars football operations staff. By far, not even close. Jesus Christ. As we know, Jacksonville went on to fire Urban Meyer not even halfway through his season with the club. It was absolutely disastrous all around. And it highlights the disconnect between college coaches and professional coaches. And I thought that this was just an issue within the NBA because we had seen how a bunch of guys in the NFL translated from college to the NFL, just considering how a lot of the schemes that are ran in the NFL today are, kind of ripped from college teams, like air raid offenses, pass heavy offenses. I mean, there are guys who are routinely throwing for 4,500, 5,000 yards, and that's stuff that happens in college. But Urban Meyer is like this really interesting person in the sense that he, as a coach in college, he almost did not have to do anything in regards to actually team building and, game planning because the university did it for him. Like the University of Ohio State is an institution in football. So right away, they're going to attract all of the premier players, all of the big time recruits are going to go to Ohio State. And then from that point, he's just being like an A&R essentially at a record label where he's going and talking to the families of these kids and just convincing them that, oh no, you don't have to go to Auburn or you don't have to go to LSU. Come to Ohio State. Come to whatever fucking conference they play in. We get to go up against Michigan every year and we get to whoop their ass. Like, it'll be an easy ride for you. You'll get to BS for 3 years. You'll put up incredible numbers, then you'll go on to the NFL. And then, of course, the rest of his job is just hiring the best people around him. And, of course, if you're an elite school like that, you're going to have a massive amount of really just incredible resumes to peruse. So I'm not surprised that Urban Meyer really crashed and burned in his first NFL season or in his first season as an NFL head coach. I am kind of surprised that his lack of knowledge of the NFL is this astoundingly low. How are you going to sit here and say that you conducted a 6-month deep dive of the NFL and not know who the fuck Aaron Donald is and not know who Deebo Samuel is? How deep does this go? Like, does he know who Devontae Adams is? Does he know who Cooper Kupp is? It's just like me putting on my resume, and I'm sure all of you guys can attest to this. It's like putting on your resume that you're proficient in Excel, when in reality, you just have a couple core formulas memorized. This is the equivalence that I'm getting from Urban Meyer. All of the other stuff that was mentioned in this report, of course, absolutely disastrous time for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I understand that the team was bad. The systemic issues of the Jacksonville Jaguars go way deeper than Urban Meyer. Like, yes, he's a shitty coach, but, the roster wasn't exactly primed for greatness either. I mean, you have Trevor Lawrence coming in, who's a rookie quarterback, so he's going to struggle. You had a very, very lackluster cast on offense. I mean, Laviska Shenault Jr. showed some flashes. Of course, James Robinson had some flashes as well, but you really were not going to be even a middle of the pack team in the NFL, especially with a rookie quarterback, because that transition is such a sizable and such a jarring transition for so many people. For all like almost all of the great quarterbacks have at least one bad season went upon coming to the NFL. But like I'm just I'm still trying to rationalize like how what was the interview process like with the Jacksonville Jaguars, because if this guy doesn't know who the players in the NFL are, does he know anything about football X's and O's? Because me, I am a commentator. I don't know shit about play calling in the NFL, but I know about the players because I watch and I follow. I mean, I know obviously the basics of football schematics. Like I know what 3-4 defense, I know what 4-3 defense, I know what 2 high safety, I know what quarters coverage is. I know stuff like that. But I how where does what happens here? How is this disconnect so sizable that Urban Meyer doesn't know Aaron fucking Donald? Did he know Justin Herbert? Did he know Josh Allen? I just really want to know how deep this goes. And I'm sure at some point more stuff will come out, because it's just like the Urban Meyer tenure in Jacksonville, as brief as it was, although it was only 13 games long, lying to get the job you want, that is 100%. That is 100%. Lying, I condone lying on your resume. 100%. But like whatever lying is, this is the worst part of it. Like there's a difference between having a tertiary understanding of Microsoft Office and not knowing Aaron Donald. There's a difference. Like there's white lies, and then there's this. This is just blatant. This is just being stupid. This is straight up having no brain activity going on. This is like when you go down to the lake and you see the rocks on the beach that are all smooth because of the water constantly bashing up against them. That is Urban Meyer's brain in regards to football. It's just smooth, not a single ridge, negative activity going on. And somehow he tricked the Jacksonville Jaguars into giving him a job. And I think only because he does have this very impressive college football resume. That is the only reason. He was not the smartest person in the room. If he doesn't know Aaron Donald, I know for a fact that Urban Meyer did not know every player on his team. I know that 100%. And I can't say the same for somebody like Sean McVay, for example, who is a literal crazy person and can remember exact plays from exact games at exact times from multiple years ago. And then Urban Meyer comes into the Jaguars, doesn't know Aaron Donald, is probably like being fucking homophobic in the locker room. He's kicking his fucking kicker during warmups, which is insane. And then there was also this one quote that's not listed in this article, but he was like talking to Trevor Lawrence and saying that he has to slow the game down because these guys from the South, their transcripts aren't up to par. Meanwhile, Trevor Lawrence is literally from the South. He is from Georgia. He played at Clemson. He is a Southern boy. And Urban Meyer is talking about how people in the South are just stupid. And, you know, he's not wrong. There are a lot of stupid people all over the place. But the difference is that there's a difference between someone being stupid at an office job and then a difference between someone being stupid in football. Because to be a professional athlete, you have to be better than everybody else. Like, in terms of your skill, your athleticism, and then to be a football player where you have like a bajillion plays that you have to learn, it takes a certain level of cognitive ability. And I'm sure that Trevor Lawrence didn't even know all of the plays in the Jacksonville Jaguars playbook because he's the fucking quarterback, okay? So there are a bajillion plays. I mean, granted, if Urban Meyer is making the game plan, I don't think there are that many plays So this is probably just a self-report on Urban Meyer that he's not enough of a brainiac. He's not this hyper intellectual who has all these different plays and all these different hot routes. But like, it's difficult for young players to come into football or to come into the NFL and know all of their audibles, know all of their hot routes, know all of their protections. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot for them to understand. It's a lot for them to get acquainted with, which is why a lot of the times young players struggle. And this happens with almost any sport. Any sport. Rookies come in, young players come in, and the only difference is that if a player is coming from a different professional league somewhere in Europe, more so talking basketball, but if they come from like Japan in baseball, they're going to have a little bit of an advantage over their other contemporaries because they're used to the professional atmosphere. They're used to just the difference in approach to a lot of these guys. Like when you make it to the NBA or you make it to the NFL, there is definitely a mentality switch where like this is you're a professional now. Like your life has to be about this. Granted, it is to that way. It is that way in college, but to a lesser degree because again, not everyone in college is going pro, so they have different priorities. Like I mean, we make these jokes all the time that there are guys who are on these teams just to boost the GPA. Like their focus isn't football, their focus is economics, or their focus is engineering. Like if you're someone like Andrew Luck who was just fucking super crazy smart in every regard, but like still, I don't want this to get lost in translation. Urban Meyer did not know Aaron Donald. That is the most preposterous thing that I've ever heard. It's this is I feel like this is a great comparison. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but that's like if you're a coach coming from college basketball and you get a job and then after going 10-71 you get fired and then one of your coaches on the coaching staff comes out and said, "Oh yeah, we were having this discussion and he didn't think that Draymond Green was a Hall of Fame player." That's literally the same thing. That's straight up. You're just being dumb. You're being dumb on main, but you're also making millions of dollars while doing it. God, now that I'm thinking about it, I really hope that that situation manifests itself because I would just like that's just content brain. That's 100% content brain. That person is doing that, and I understand that there are a bunch of like really dumb coaches. Like I'm sure there's someone in the Sacramento Kings front office that thinks that about Draymond Green. But you're saying that knowing that at some point it's going to get brought up and you're just doing it to watch the frenzy unfold. Absolutely preposterous, but mighty hilarious. Mighty hilarious.